welcome back to another video! Today we shall be watching 5 most disturbing moments in TV history by Chilling Scares. Very excited to dive into this one because I've been recommended this a bunch of times now. So we shall go and dive right into it, shall we?
Of October 15th, 1980,
October 15th.
A small staff at WCPO in Cincinnati was working through what should have been an ordinary night shift. But at around 2 a.m., a news
Dude, I wonder how well the news reporters get paid. I wonder how well, and actually, how the hell, what do you need to get to have like a news reporter thingy? I think you have to go to college for that, right? Pretty sure you have to go to college for that.
Reporter Elaine Green and a channel photographer were heading out to their cars when a man carrying a semi-automatic rifle stepped out from the dark and ordered them back inside.
Excuse me?
He assured them no one was going to get hurt and he just wanted to say something he needed the cameras for. The man was 41-year-old James Hoskins, an out-of-work artist living in Cincinnati's Over-the-Rhine neighborhood.
I mean, yeah. I mean, some people are just insane, right? Stuff like this can definitely happen. It's so scary when it does happen.
One of the poorest areas in the city.
God.
Along with the rifle, he also had 5 handguns and roughly 600 rounds of ammunition. By the time the rest of the staff realized
what do you need so many guns for, bro? Okay, I know this is already bad in general, right? Do not ever do this. This is the worst thing you could ever do in your entire life, by the way, but what does he need so many guns for?
What was happening, James already had the entire newsroom under his control. He gathered all 9 employees at gunpoint and told Elaine he wanted to go live on television to deliver a message.
Okay,
Elaine,
what's the message?
Him to record the interview on tape instead, preventing the station from airing an unpredictable hostage situation live to viewers at home. What no one at WCPO knew yet was that the most tragic part of the night had already happened hours earlier.
It's already happened?
Recording, James began explaining why he had come there in the first place, while holding a gun in his hand the entire time.
Okay.
Well, I really didn't have anything together, but there's been so much violence.
He talks about the violence and poverty he witnessed every day from his apartment window in Over-the-Rhine.
Okay.
There's not enough attention paid for the poor people in the Over-the-Rhine area, and there seems to be in the country a growing kind of thing to keep black and white at each other's throats, to keep the rich on top, so the poor people have no way to fight. The police have become the knights, the buffer between the rich and the poor. And the poor, I don't know if you've ever been over the Rhine area to see the old people. They have nothing. I watch them. They have nothing. They sit in their bed all day long. And that's all they have to look forward to. Nothing's happening for them. Nobody.
But this is not what you should do. This is absolutely not what you should do. Like, okay, I can understand him being extremely sad about the issue of the rich and the poor, right? I can totally understand that, but you do not go and do this kind of stuff. Like, that is not how you fix things.
Nobody cares. Nobody does anything for him.
He then turned that frustration toward the media and the city itself, accusing news stations of only entering these neighborhoods after someone had been killed, while city officials cleared low-income housing so visitors coming for conventions wouldn't have to see the poverty there.
It seems like the things you should be covering, you don't cover. You don't, you never come into the area unless somebody gets wasted. They're displacing people. They tear the buildings down.
I mean, they can't do anything against that, though. I'm pretty sure. I am pretty sure that newscasters or just the news in general, like they get their stuff. Like, these people that are working in there are not the people you should be angry at, because they are just doing their job at the end of the day. They're not the ones that make the decisions for the thingy. Like, they're just there to do their job.
Convention centers, they don't have to look at the poor people.
But even as James laid all of this out, he kept speaking like a man who knew exactly how the night was going to end.
Yeah.
Can you see this world from your window?
I can see the world from my bay windows, up and down the street.
Okay.
Possibly a story could be done from your window of your world.
I won't be there in my windows after this, I'm sure. Maybe you can do it from my windows, but I won't be there.
What do you mean?
This only added to the seriousness of the interview.
I know how this is gonna go.
For a man forcing people to listen at gunpoint and claiming that he was about to no longer be here, most of James's points didn't sound completely detached from reality. He was rambling and at times struggled to get his thoughts together, but his anger kept circling back to real problems and a system he believed had abandoned the people it was supposed to protect. This would go on for nearly 10 minutes.
For
As the tape
10
started running
minutes?
out, Elaine asked if there was any final point he wanted to make. And
Okay.
that's when James finally said what he actually wanted next.
Jim, we have probably another minute or so on this tape. Is there any other point you wanted to make?
I can't think
I'm
of any point.
surprised. I'm surprised how, like, she can be so chill, you know? I would be so afraid at the moment. If I was this lady and I was in this situation, I would be absolutely shaking, okay? I would be shaking. I would, like, you know, trip over my words and stuff, but she's so professional about it. It's crazy.
I want to make, except give me a place where the police can come and get me. We're going to shoot it out. And you people can leave. Well, I don't see any other place for me to shoot it out. They've got their magnums. They want to hurt the poor people in the street.
That is creepy as hell. That is genuinely terrifying. That is genuinely terrifying.
I've got my magnums. I'm ready. I'm loaded.
Hearing that,
Wow.
the people in the room tried to reason him out of his plan, pointing out that what he had just said sounded too idealistic to end in a shootout. But
Yeah.
James's response to it immediately changed the context of the entire interview.
Idealistic things you just said. How
He seems such a nice gentleman.
you could do.
I blew my girlfriend away tonight. It's over for me.
Why? Why would you
Before
do
coming to the
that?
station that night, James had shot his girlfriend, 30-year-old Melanie Finley. She was later
No,
found inside their shared
man.
apartment on 12th Street. This confession made his calmness even more disturbing, as it became clear that James wasn't using the cameras to fight a corrupt system. He was using them to explain something he believed could no longer be undone. And even after
Wow.
Elaine and others kept pleading that he could still get help, James insisted he was already past saving, blaming
That
drugs,
is sad.
paranoia, and a plan he said had started long before that night.
That is sad.
You don't wanna say
That
I
is
have no
very
choice.
sad.
I've murdered my girlfriend. I have been taking this weird drug. I am out of my mind.
But you
man.
can get help.
I can't. We planned. We did all these things. This whole thing was planned back in San Francisco. It was
Oh
all
my
started out.
god.
Over the period of time, I've become paranoid. I tell you, the drugs or the angel dust people turn me
No.
on the angel dust. They did numbers on me in San Francisco that I ran from one end of the place to the other.
This guy is
He
just
was
lost
certain that he couldn't come back from what he had committed
completely.
already.
I feel
I
so
know that I'm
bad.
slipping away.
Can't we help you before you slip in? You don't want to slip completely
I'm
away.
gone. I'm gone. All they'll do.
I don't know.
There is no help for me. Look, I murdered
Oh
my
my
girlfriend.
God.
God damn, man, I killed her.
Damn, this is scary,
After roughly
man.
90 minutes, James
And
let
all
all
this
9 hostages
happened.
leave unharmed and barricaded himself alone in the newsroom as police and
Oh.
SWAT surrounded the building.
Okay.
Negotiators spoke with him by phone through the morning, trying to talk him down.
Okay.
But at 9:15 a.m., while speaking to an officer on the phone, James said, "Well, it's time. I'm going to do it now." Police waited another 4 hours before entering the building, fearing it might be a
Holy.
trap. When they finally went inside at 1:45 p.m., they found James on the newsroom floor with a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
No.
And when investigators searched his apartment, they realized the interview at WCPO may have only been one part of a much darker plan. They found more weapons, bomb-making materials, and detailed files on prominent city figures, filed under labels like political creeps, business creeps, and police
God.
tactics. Elaine Green later won a Peabody Award for her courage in the interview.
Honestly,
Much of
it's
what James said-
insane. It is insane how calm she was. I would be shaking. I would be crying, dude. Like, dude, the fact that she could stay so calm is insane to me. Wow. That lady did deserve that award. Definitely.
That night, it still sounds like fair criticism even today.
Yeah.
But the way in which he forced the world to hear it
Yeah,
is
no.
what made the footage so disturbing.
It's definitely not the way to go.
On
God
Halloween
damn.
night 1990, roughly 150 people gathered at Blackbeard's
Okay.
Family Fun Center in Fresno, California to watch a local magician attempt something
A
no
local
stuntman had
magician?
ever survived. 32-year-old Joseph Boris, or Amazing Joe,
Okay.
was a self-taught magician from Fresno who had
Oh no, does this have something to do with cutting people in half by accident or something like that?
spent years trying to surpass Harry Houdini and become the greatest
Harry
escape
Houdini?
artist ever. And on this night, the anniversary of Houdini's death, he wanted to prove it. His plan was to be handcuffed, wrapped in chains, locked inside a transparent plastic coffin, and be buried alive in a 7-foot
Never
grave,
mind, it's
all
even
recorded
worse.
for TV. If everything went according to plan, he would escape in less than a minute. But the problem was
Never
that
mind, it's
even
even
Houdini
worse.
himself had nearly died attempting a version of this stunt in
He
1915.
nearly
when the pressure
died?
of dirt got so overwhelming that he lost consciousness and had to be pulled out by his assistants before he died of suffocation.
Wow.
Joe, however,
Oh,
had already
no.
survived a simpler version of the stunt a year before in Oregon, where he escaped from a
Okay.
wooden coffin buried under dirt. That success gave him the confidence to go bigger. So, for
Okay,
the
but what is magician about this? Like you're just trying to get out of something, right? What is magician over this?
Fresno performance, Joe added something even Houdini never used.
Okay.
Wet concrete. But during the days leading
Wet
up to the
concrete?
stunt, one small detail had already hinted that Joe may have been taking too big of a risk. Still, when Joe arrived on location in a white tuxedo and white
Okay.
shoes, he gave the crowd no reason to think the stunt was in doubt.
Oh. Oh no. Oh no.
In the crowd were members of his
This is
family,
horrible.
including his 13 and 10-year-old sons, which made it seem like Joe had everything under control.
No.
So, in front of everyone, he let his assistants handcuff him.
Dude, wet concrete? Dude, if that thing dries, and it dries very fast, I believe, maybe, actually, I don't know. But, dude, if that thing dries, you're dead.
And wrapped chains around him before sealing him inside the transparent plastic coffin.
Oh my God.
Once the lid was locked, the coffin was lowered into the 7-foot grave, and his assistants began shoveling dirt into the hole until there was about 3 feet worth. Then a cement truck pulled in and poured about 3 feet of wet concrete
Talk about being a little extreme, guys. Talk about being a little too extreme. Yeah, that's a little extreme, no?
on top. The plan was for Joe to free himself before the wet cement fully dried up and tracked his escape route. But as soon as the hole was filled to the edge, the dirt and concrete both suddenly dropped about 2 feet as witnesses heard the coffin shatter somewhere beneath all that weight.
What?
It was a cold night anyway, but and when it sunk, I just knew it's trouble. We're in trouble. It's not fun anymore.
Oh
The
no.
crowd that had been waiting for Joe to climb out now watched the crew rush back in and start digging through the same dirt and concrete they had just buried him under. Unfortunately, by the time rescuers pulled him from the ground, he had already passed away.
Wow.
Pathologists later found concrete under his fingernails, suggesting
Wow.
that even after the coffin gave way, Joe may have still been trying to dig himself out. But
Dude, also, it was a glass container, no? Dude, that thing shattered into him. That is so gruesome,
the
man.
most disturbing part is that this
And it's
collapse
all
wasn't
on
some
camera?
freak accident no one could have seen coming. Joe's entire plan depended on him escaping the coffin in under a minute, because once the
Oh.
concrete covered him, there was almost no room for delay.
Yeah,
but
no.
during practice, the same escape had taken 5 minutes. On top of that,
Okay.
the plastic coffin had already cracked during one of the earlier practice runs.
Why would you
But
do that?
Instead of replacing it, Joe patched it up himself using glue from a hardware store. Even Joe's own
Guys, why are we playing with our lives? Yo, glue? Are we being for real right now?
assistant later
Why
said
didn't
that he
nobody
never
stop
calculated the
him?
combined weight of the dirt and wet concrete together.
Okay, well, he himself, he must have been insane either way for doing something like this. But why did none of the crewmates talk him out of this? Like, this would have already set off so many alarms for me. I would be like, no, I'm not doing this. Are you joking right now? Dude, that's insane.
And that his only test of the coffin's strength was jumping on it. To give you a rough idea, if the grave covered about the same footprint as the coffin, the 3
God.
feet of dirt alone would have weighed close to 4,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Then the wet concrete added another 7,500 pounds on top of that. So by the time the grave was filled, the plastic coffin was holding roughly 11,500 pounds of weight, which to put things into perspective is almost the same weight as an adult elephant. As the coffin collapsed, all that pressure dropped directly on Joe. The Fresno County Coroner's Office ruled his death as asphyxia caused by compression of his chest.
Damn,
In
dude.
the end, Joe Boris died on the same night as the magician he had spent his whole career trying to surpass.
Even worse was that his little kids were in that show, bro. His little kids were watching this. Oh my God. That is absolutely
At around
horrifying.
9:30 p.m. on May 28th, 1982, viewers in Phoenix, Arizona had their regular programming interrupted by an unscheduled broadcast on KOOL.
Oh?
Us to relay to you. Mr. Gwynn, is it all right for our guest to leave the studio now? All right, you may leave now.
Okay.
On the screen was veteran news director Bill Close, sitting next to a man he addressed as only Mr. Gwynn and reading aloud from a handwritten script.
Mr. Gwynn?
This is the script that Mr. Gwynn gave me, and I'm going to read it verbatim.
Okay.
And anytime you wish to interrupt me,
The words jumped between country music singers, religious prophecies, civil war, and a coming World War III. To the viewers watching at home, the broadcast looks strange enough on its own, but what they couldn't
He must
see
have
was
been
a
held at
38
gunpoint
caliber
or something.
rifle aimed directly at Bill's
Yeah.
stomach beneath the
I knew
desk.
it.
The
I
man
knew
sitting
it.
beside him was 28-year-old Joseph Billy Gwynn, and roughly 4.5 hours earlier, he had forced his way into the KOOL building carrying that revolver and a small portable television monitor. The first person he came across was production assistant Nancy Petranka, whom he confronted before pushing past her and forcing his way deeper into the station, where another employee named Louis Villa stepped in his way.
Damn, they got
and tried
that on
to stop
tape
him.
too?
But Joseph pistol whipped him across the head, locked him into a chokehold, and dragged him straight onto the set where Bill and 2 other station employees were preparing to go live for the evening news. With 4 employees now under his control, Joseph fired a single shot into the ceiling to prove his weapon was real. But when Bill asked what he wanted, Joseph's answer only raised more questions.
Oh, God.
Visions and dreams. Now God showed me what was going to happen.
Oh, my God, bro.
Cities are going to be built and there's going to be destroyed. There's going to be civil war in America. And America's going to be divided up.
By then, the
Imagine-
people inside the station
Imagine this just happens to you on a random Tuesday, bro. Imagine this just happens to you on a random Tuesday, man. Jesus Christ. Dude, it always shocks me just how, like, okay, well, you're gonna have to stay calm in that kind of situation, right? But it always shocks me how people can stay so calm in those kinds of situations.
and had already realized they were dealing with someone whose grip on reality was slipping badly.
Yeah.
Over the next several hours, Bill worked the phone with police negotiators, carefully relaying Joseph's demands to appear on television and have his statement read live on air. And every time he spoke to police, he had to walk back over to Joseph and calm him down before he started believing he was being stalled or ignored. But as the hours dragged on, Joseph became increasingly convinced that the station had no intention of broadcasting his message. And the longer he waited, the more desperate he became. So, with Joseph growing more unstable,
He might actually
and a
kill
loaded
someone.
revolver still pressed against Louis, police finally agreed to let him go live on air
Okay,
with
thank
Bill
God,
at
man.
around
Just let him go
9:30
live
p.m.
at this point.
my name is Joe Gwynn. I am a watchman. Read the 33rd chapter of Ezekiel. This is about the story of the 10 prophets.
For the next 21 minutes, Bill read Joseph's 11-page, almost incoherent
11
statement
page.
live to the people of Phoenix.
The 10 prophets are Johnny Cash, Ronnie Millsap, Eddie Rabbitt, Barbara Mondrell, Joe Gwynn, the Traitor,
Dude,
the Arizona Republic, and Phoenix Gazette
11
can verify this
pages,
story.
bro.
16 years ago in September.
Dude, this must have gone on for a long time.
1966. All of these people's names above meet at the same time, including me. I was almost 13 years old. We all meet, and we're together at the same hour. Mysteriously, I was the only one who knew what it was about. The others didn't. I did.
The more Bill read, the harder the message became to follow, drifting from biblical prophecy into Islamophobic
Yeah, no, this guy is
Then the angel shows me a look
gone from
about me
reality.
and the life I was supposed to live. The angel told me the story about the 10 prophets. Then he told me I was a watchman. Ezekiel chapter 33.
Man.
The angel told me I would meet all these people, the 10 prophets, the country singers.
That's so scary,
This
man.
is these people's part they have in this. Back to the beginning. Islam used sociology on our people. Islam is using this sociology on children. They used it on my generation to start the hippie movement and drugs. And on today's generation to turn them into punks and punk rockers by hypnotism.
What
As
the
statement
actual
went on,
hell is
Joseph's
he talking
prophecies
about?
got even more bizarre, describing an American civil war and a third world war that he believed were coming in the years ahead.
Islam is going to blow these cities up with atomic bombs. These 5 cities are Cyclops in Pennsylvania, Ominix in Arkansas, Yosemite in Nebraska, Isolok in Idaho, and Snix in New Mexico. All these cities will be isolated. After this happens, there will be civil war in America. The United States will be divided up into 4 countries.
Okay, dude, it's even crazy. What if this would actually happen? What if this would actually happen? Dude, that would be so goddamn scary. Like, that would be actually so scary.
World War III will start in the fall of 1988. Edward Kennedy will lead the United States in World War III. He will be the next president and be elected 2 terms. The angel said we could unite and fight these Muslims, Islam, and their allies.
But the clearest sign of how far gone Joseph was came from the small monitor he had brought with him. Throughout the broadcast, he kept checking it to make sure the station was actually airing his message, as if the only thing Joseph trusted in that room was the version of reality playing out in his own mind. When Bill finished reading the final page, Joseph calmly handed Bill the revolver and surrendered without resistance.
Wow. Okay, I didn't expect that. I did not expect that. Wow. He actually did surrender.
I got a sweaty palm. I want to shake hands with you.
You really do, huh?
You bet. I told you I was playing this fair. Did you think I...
That's scary. That's very scary, though.
Well, it's all right. Leave him alone. It's okay. Put down the guns. I have the gun. Back off with the guns.
By that point, every person in that studio had spent almost 5 hours trapped inside a situation that could have changed any moment Joseph stopped believing Bill was on his side. Joseph was later charged with 4 counts of armed kidnapping, 3 counts of aggravated assault, and first-degree burglary. But after pleading no contest, he was declared legally insane and committed to the Arizona State Hospital. However, Joseph was released just 6 months later, despite prosecutors and even some of the psychiatrists involved warning that they weren't convinced he was safe to be back out in public. And 2 years after the hostage crisis, the same delusions appeared again. Joseph was arrested at a Phoenix convenience store after assaulting and threatening 2 clerks while screaming.
Why? Why would we let this guy out? He threatened a whole station with a gun. Why did we... I just can't understand it. I just cannot... What... Who makes these decisions?
Johnny Cash was going to kill his family. This time, the arrest triggered a probation violation from the original hostage case.
Why did it take so long?
Joseph was sent to prison, and he wouldn't be released until 2005, more than 2 decades after he first walked into that newsroom with a gun.
God damn it, man. God damn it. If you really liked the video up until now, make sure you follow me at twitch.tv/SevereArachne so I can come and touch you in my Twitch chat. But for now, let's get back to the video! God damn it, dude, this person is not good
On
for
March 5th,
society.
1989, a local news crew in Moncks Corner, South Carolina was filming the 3rd day of the search for 5-year-old Justin Lee Turner. 2 days earlier, Justin's stepmother, Pamela Turner, had called the Berkeley County Sheriff's Office after he never came home
I don't
from
like
school.
where this is going.
According to Pamela, Justin had left that morning to catch the bus from a neighbor's property a few hundred yards away. But when the bus returned that afternoon, he wasn't on it. And once police checked with the school and other witnesses, they learned that he never made it to the bus that morning. For
Did
the next
they find
2 days,
him?
Local police, the Berkeley County Rescue Squad, and dozens of volunteers searched the area around the Turner property off Horseshoe
Did they find him? Did they find him live on camera and it's just his remains or something?
Road. They combed through the woods surrounding the home and checked sheds, storage spaces, and abandoned structures across the property, but still found no sign of Justin. By the morning of March 5th, search crews were getting ready to spend another full day going back around the same ground while a local TV crew from WCBD followed them around documenting the search.
Okay.
All the way. Cross.
By the search barely lasted 5 minutes as Justin's father, Victor Lee Turner, walked up to an old camper on the family's property and looked inside.
Oh no.
Something's in there. Everybody stand back. Everybody stand back.
Wait, it's in his own...
Inside a cabinet in the camper was the body of 5-year-old Justin Lee Turner. And in the few seconds caught by the TV crew right after the discovery, Victor may have revealed something he never intended to. The Turner property was immediately locked down as a crime scene. State agents started searching through the camper in the family's home, checking for fingerprints and trying to figure out how Justin ended up hidden there in the first place. Autopsy results later showed that Justin was strangled to death, but the physical evidence from the camper led nowhere, and the case went on to stall for years to come. Without any solid lead, attention slowly shifted back to the moment Justin was found. Investigators found that, according to reports, the camper had already been searched during the first 2 days Justin was missing, and nothing had been found inside. So if those earlier searches
it was
were done
placed
properly,
there.
then someone had placed Justin's body there after the search was already underway,
No,
while police,
man.
volunteers, and reporters were still moving around the property. That meant the killer had enough access to the Turner property to return to the camper without being noticed. Even the footage captured by the TV crew added to that suspicion. When Victor looked inside the camper, he didn't seem to rush in to check whether Justin was still alive. He didn't even call out his name or try to pull him out.
And he immediately also knew where he was.
Immediately, as if he already knew what he was going to find.
Exactly.
Now, to be fair, there's no single normal way for a parent to react to something like that. But investigators still found the behavior difficult to ignore, especially considering how quickly Victor went straight to the camper once the search resumed, then located Justin within seconds despite the camper having multiple drawers and cabinets. But despite all of these observations, the suspicion around Victor and Pamela still wasn't enough to hold up in court. Most of what pointed toward them was circumstantial, and without physical evidence separating normal family contact from the day Justin died, investigators had no way to turn those suspicions into something they could actually prove. As the years passed and the case went cold, Victor and Pamela eventually left Berkeley County and moved to South Carolina's upstate. And according to investigators, neither of them ever contacted law enforcement again to ask about the case or whether any progress had been made.
That's weird.
For decades, that was where the suspicion stayed. But years later, a new possibility emerged that hinted at something far more chilling than a family cover-up. In September 2023, a law professor at the University of Virginia and her students were mapping the movements of serial killer Richard Mark Ivanitz when one of them uncovered something unexpected. Richard had served in the Navy, and after tracking down naval records, the student found that the ship he was assigned to arrived in Charleston on March 3rd, 1989, the same day Justin vanished. Monk's Corner, where the Turners lived, was only about a 50-minute drive from the port. And once researchers started comparing Richard's known crimes to Justin's case, the similarities became difficult to ignore. But just like the theory surrounding the Turners, there was still no physical evidence directly tying Richard to Justin's death. Unfortunately, the police couldn't question him because by that time, Richard had already been dead for more than 20 years. He had lost his life in a police chase in Florida in 2002 after one of his kidnapping victims escaped and identified him to authorities. To make matters worse, his body was cremated and his ashes scattered, leaving no way to test his DNA against anything from Justin's case. So instead of pulling suspicion away from the Turners, the theory only left investigators stuck between two possibilities that were both disturbing in completely different ways. Either someone close to Justin had killed him and hidden his body back on the property while the search was already happening, or a serial killer from outside had somehow entered that same space without leaving proof behind. The answer remained uncertain for decades until investigators announced what looked like the first real break in the case in 35 years. Using newer forensic testing methods, investigators re-examined microscopic fibers recovered from Justin's shirt and compared.
They can still do that, dude. It is always baffling to me how far our technology and like knowledge has gotten. Dude, that's insane.
Them to a rope found inside the Turner home. According to them, the fibers were consistent with the possibility that the same rope had been used to strangle him. Shortly afterwards, 68-year-old Victor and 63-year-old Pamela Turner were both arrested and charged with Justin's murder in January 2024. And for the first time in decades, it looked like the case might finally be heading towards some kind of answer. But just a few months later, it fell apart again. In June 2024, Judge Roger Young dismissed the charges with prejudice, ruling that after 35 years, with over 20 witnesses either dead or unable to testify and no real new evidence on the table, there was no way to give the Turners a fair trial. Because it was dismissed with prejudice, the decision was permanent and the charges can never be refiled. So after everything, the mystery of Justin's murder landed right where it started in 1989, and those few seconds of footage captured by WCBD may still be the closest thing this case ever gets to an answer.
I still think that they're guilty. I think that it's definitely the parents, dude. I feel like honestly, it must be the parents. It can't be some random serial killer who was like stationed there or something. It must have been the parents. Damn,
on the morning of June 26, 1995, viewers in Mason City, Iowa tuned into their regular Monday morning newscast on KIMT.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to Daybreak. It's June 26th. I'm Jody Husentrud.
And I'm Kevin Skrupa. Good morning, everybody.
Coming up, a wild weather weekend.
On screen was 27-year-old news anchor Jody Husentrude, smiling through the early morning broadcast with her co-host.
Oh no,
Kevin
did something
Skarupa.
happen to her?
The two hosts talked lightheartedly as they discussed the weather for the day ahead. At the time, there was no reason for anyone watching to remember these moments, but this would soon become the last broadcast Jody would ever appear in.
I knew it, dude. Something was gonna happen to her. The moment he pointed out just one of them, I knew something was gonna happen.
The next morning, Jody was supposed to arrive at the station by 3:30 a.m. to prepare for the 6 a.m. newscast. But when she didn't show up, producer Amy Kunz called her apartment at around 4:10 a.m.
Okay.
Jody answered, sounding like she had just woken up. She said she had overslept and told Amy she would be right there.
Okay.
That was the last confirmed contact anyone ever had with Jody Husentrude.
Damn!
By 6 a.m., when Jody still hadn't arrived, Amy was forced to anchor the show without her. And that alone was enough to worry the newsroom, because Jody had never missed a newscast before. Shortly after 7 a.m., her coworkers called the police.
Okay.
When officers arrived at her apartment, the reason she never made it to work became clear within minutes. Jody's car was still parked just outside her apartment building.
Okay.
But everything around it suggested she had been attacked right as she was trying to leave. Scattered around the car were her belongings, including her shoes, blow dryer, hairspray can, earrings, and a bent car key. Nearby officers also found drag marks on the pavement and clear signs of a struggle. When investigators spoke to the people in the apartment complex, some residents said they had heard screams around the time Jody would have been leaving for work.
And nobody said anything? Nobody made a comment? Nobody made sure to just look outside or something?
Another resident reported seeing a white Ford Econoline van idling nearby. But none of those details reached police until after Jody was already gone. By the time they pieced everything together, they had an idea of what could have taken place. She probably made it to her car and was unlocking the front door when someone attacked her from behind, explaining the bent car key.
Jesus.
But finding who did it would prove to be a far more challenging task. With no usable fingerprints, tire tracks, or clear eyewitnesses, investigators turned their attention to the people in Jody's life to find the answer. The first name to draw serious attention was 49-year-old John Van Sice. The night before she disappeared, Jody had gone to his home to watch a video from a surprise birthday party he had thrown for her 2 weeks earlier. On its own, nothing about that visit seemed unusual.
I mean,
but to some of Jody's friends, John's feelings towards her had started to seem strange.
There it is.
Even though they both described the relationship as a friendship, people around her sensed that his attachment to Jody was turning into an obsession, to the point that he even named his boat after her. So naturally, when Jody vanished just hours after leaving his home, all this context turned him into a potential suspect. But that suspicion never turned into proof. John cooperated with investigators, provided DNA, passed a polygraph test, and years later, police even placed GPS trackers on his vehicles to see if his movements might lead them somewhere. But none of it produced anything tying him to Jody's disappearance. And as it turned out, John wouldn't be the last person in Jody's life whose attachment to her caught investigators' attention. However, for the next 2 years, every possible lead investigators came across seemed to end in a similar way. Close enough to raise questions, not strong enough to
For 2 whole years? God damn!
Answer them. This went on until 1997, when a new name entered the investigation. A man named Tony Jackson was arrested in the Minneapolis area around that time. When police looked backward through his timeline, 2 details stood out immediately. At the time Jody disappeared, Tony had been living in Mason City, only 2 blocks from the KNC station where she worked, and close enough to her apartment for the connection to matter. On top of that, the nature of his confirmed crimes involved stalking, abducting, and sudden violence against women, which fit the kind of offender who could have walked in an apartment parking lot before sunrise and attacked without warning. But once again, the case stopped at the same wall.
It stopped as well, man!
His DNA didn't match the physical evidence recovered from the scene, and after a full review of the evidence and the polygraph, Mason City police confirmed that he wasn't considered a viable suspect in May of 1999. By then, nearly 4 years had passed without Jody being found, and on May 14, 2001, she was declared legally dead. But the case never really went cold. Her story became one of the most discussed disappearances in the country because of consistent national coverage. But even with that exposure, the investigation would go nearly
I mean, it's a newscaster, right? I'm just guessing that would be a huge goddamn deal, right? I mean, she's literally like, I guess, I don't know. Could you say that newscasters are celebrities? I don't know.
3 decades without any breakthrough strong enough to change the direction of the case. Then, in 2025, a Hulu documentary brought another name to the spotlight, and this time, the information came from someone who had known Jody since childhood. Patty Niemeyer was one of Jody's closest friends growing up, and she had been married to a man named Brad Millerburn.
Okay.
But according to Patty, Brad had been fixated on Jody throughout their marriage.
Oh, hell nah! Why would you even be with that guy then if you're so fixated on your best friend? Man, hell nah.
And this fixation eventually became one of the reasons for their divorce,
Okay,
which
yeah,
was
thank you.
finalized on June 23rd, 1995, exactly 4 days before Jody disappeared. Once investigators looked closer at Brad, one detail pulled the case back to something witnesses had reported from the very beginning.
Him.
At the time of the abduction, Brad had access to a white Ford Econoline van which he used for work. It
literally
was the
him.
same type of vehicle someone had seen near Jody's apartment that
That
morning.
is literally him.
Once this
It
connection
must
was
be.
established, investigators showed Patty a few sketches of a man who had reportedly been seen around Jody's apartment complex before she disappeared. When Patty looked at these sketches, she seemed confident that they looked like Brad. Unfortunately, just like every other person of interest in this case, that lead never turned into anything meaningful. Brad denied any involvement with the disappearance and cooperated with investigators. And after multiple interrogations and thorough property searches, officials found no forensic link connecting him to the crime scene. So, even after thousands of tips and several persons of interest over the decades, no one has ever been arrested or charged for Jody's disappearance.
It's gotta be him.
More than 30 years later, the broadcast from the morning of June 26, 1995, still remains the last public record of Jody who's intrude alive.
Dude, it's gotta be him. There is not a single way it's not him, by the way. That he's got a wide when. He has an obsession with her ever since, like, God knows when. Dude, it's gotta be that guy, no? God damn it. I'm surprised nothing ever came from that. But yes, that was 5 most disturbing moments in TV history. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I will see you guys in the other screen. See you there. See you on the other side. And that was 5 most disturbing moments in TV history by Chilling Scares. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and put the bell on so you never miss a single video of mine. And of course, make sure you check out my Twitch at twitch.tv/TobiArachne if you want me to touch you. Not only touch you, but grab you by your balls as well. And pull you into my basement, live on Twitch. Make sure you tell me, though, that you're from YouTube, by the way, just saying, so I can actually touch you, like, correctly, you know, as always. But yes, that is it, and thank you so much to all of my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for supporting me over there, making sure that I can keep on making these videos, and of course, keeping the lights on and just helping me and supporting me. That means the world to me, and thank you so much to Connor, Quinny, Yumio, Falloon, Tao Aku, Moquette, Draxon, Lurker Samson, Uncoder78, LEC, and Darren McMahon. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys next time in the next video. So, bye.